Hello and welcome to Albuquerque Film and Music Experience Animation Block. I'm Ramona King, your moderator. I'm Albuquerque's storyteller. I'm a television and film actress and stage performer. And so today we have our three filmmakers who you've seen earlier, their films earlier. We have with us Daniel Strauss, the screenwriter for the music video Pressure, and Stephen Michael Simon, the director of Wilson Ruiner, and Jeff Marslet, director and producer for the animation Phantom 52. Welcome, gentlemen. It's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us on this virtual talk, question and answer session that we're having together. Okay, so I was looking up with just that because your film touches upon a thing in the human experience that a lot of us are reaching out for right now. So could you talk to us something about this thing about the development of person character in your film? Daniel, you want to start us off?
Sure. Thank you so much for the introduction, Ramona. It's a pleasure to be on here and to be a part of this amazing festival and with all these creatives. So again, thank you for that. And to answer your question about really the character development and personal development in terms of what it means to the Pressure animation, really what we were trying to accomplish by turning the characters into words, we were trying to get these characters or for the audience to be able to feel the emotion of the characters as they went through their day in a life, at a school, whether it was elementary, middle, or high school, or even college, but just making it very relatable. So kids were able to maybe speak out and relate to those emotions without having to convey them directly, right? It basically creates a talking point about a subject matter that may be uncomfortable, like pressure or ADHD or bully or something of that nature. And it really gives people an outlet to discuss them as opposed to them having to talk about it personally. And so our goal was to develop the characters to create that type of communication. And I think we accomplished that uh, in ways we were really lucky. We had a couple of different elementary and middle school kids review the film and then provide video feedback of how the characters made them feel. And that was an incredible experience for us just to see these kids relate and really, just kind of be able to take that information out of what they conveyed to us. And there was just so much incredible stuff that could be, useful for counselors and teachers, and anybody trying to, provide mental health help for children without the subject matter being too boring. Sorry, I went, on a couple of tangents there, but that was the point of the character development in the short film.
Very powerful, very powerful. Thank you, Daniel. Stephen, talk to us about Wilson Ruiner, the development of your character
Sure.
in your music.
I feel like, yeah, at the time, the band actually had an idea of doing something about an evil twin. And I feel like that had kind of been played out and, with the movie Us, is very hot at the time. And so I kind of went a little further with, I was trying to figure out just in personal, kind of like this idea of some spirituality stuff with like just balance. And I kind of wanted to play with the idea of like opposites, right? Like yin and yang. Um, and so, weirdly enough, there seems to be a lot of imbalance in the world and people on very polarized parts, of thought.
Mhm.
And so, I guess it's a very abstract video, obviously, but the idea of like what's good and what's bad, is there, and is there an actual true good and true bad, or is it
Yeah,
relative, and how they balance together?
Yeah, Stephen, one
Yeah,
of the things, I'm sorry, but
go ahead.
what I'm hearing too is when you say good and bad, what's, right and wrong, dark and light. What I'm seeing too is that whole idea that goes back to what Daniel is talking about, pressure. This thing that your character experiences, even right to the moment where the young lady is screaming at the table and just, and I think that was a point where she sort of, did the women switch?
Yeah, there's a clear, not really clear, but about when you get to the bridge, they switch clothing, they switch physicality, something like that. But yeah, it's yeah, I guess there's no like true good and bad for me, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's all relative. So you can start to actually kind of switch your position. Um, I don't know, just trying to find a balance. So I did it in a very abstract way.
Yeah, somehow for me, Stephen, it feels like the switch even feels like the pressure point for two characters
Hmm.
coming into one because it all comes together, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a, before we go to Jeff, do you want to say anything to that, Daniel?
About the yeah, so I think that Stephen brought up so many good points, but most specifically, um, we had actually received some feedback from kids just to relate to this about like uh, how they didn't want to be defined by the word pressure, or how maybe it wasn't fair that the character was, or they were defined by ADHD, or maybe it was just a feeling, or were they able to switch out of that and they would feel better if they were. And it just brought up a great point that like you know we have to be malleable in our processes and lives, and really be accepting of kind of all information to understand what works best for us. So really deciding what's right and what's wrong, and what's good and what's bad, it
Hmm.
comes from your perspective. And
Yeah.
so it's really hard to decide what is and what isn't. And I thought that came to light in that video, and it was a really good job of being able to hone in on that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and
awesome.
really quick, like when you have one character who is so loose and one character that's so rigid,
Hmm.
it's almost this Byronic kind of hero where it's your own downfall. If you're so rigid, it's good, but it can also destroy you. And same with it being super loose. So yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome. And Jeff, let's talk about Phantom 52. As I told you, Jeff, it was incredible, the experience for an individual to see this 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 sort of truth that was coming out for a trucker.
Yeah, for me, when I look at the film, I think that I made my version of a ghost story and my version of a horror story, in the sense that you can probably tell 5 minutes talking to me on Zoom, but I like to connect to people. What I enjoy in COVID, it's strange how this film in some ways has become very timely because of the COVID world, that we're all communicating out across distances through these devices. But when I wrote it, we didn't exist in that. But my idea of a ghost is you could be a non-corporeal figure, you could be a dead thing haunting the hallways, but you also could just be someone that no one cares is speaking, that no one is responding to. And to me, that's sort of the worst case scenario. That's what would make me as a being unhappy, that if no one reached back, if that connection was somehow gone. And that's what I really wanted to explore, was this character that's speaking out and saying, here I am, these are my feelings, these are my thoughts, and no one's ever replying. And that is terribly sad, and it's sort of my vision of a ghost. And there is a real whale that has been recorded since the 80s who exists out and has some sort of issue, so that that whale, he speaks in a frequency that other whales can't even hear. Their ears aren't
Mm.
designed. So he is calling out to these other whales across distance, and they don't respond because they don't even know he's calling out. And to me, that's a super sad character. But there's also something so incredibly impressive about that character of that whale is still doing it 20 years later. They haven't stopped. They've kept this up. And I wanted to do a version of this because I did grow up with my great aunt and great uncle Muffet and Wimpy on the CB radio, and I grew up around these things, and I I wanted to whale-promorphize the trucker rather than anthropomorphize the whale, if that makes any sense. So I didn't want to say, well, imagine if the whale is like a trucker talking. I wanted to go the other direction and say, what we're doing as an organism is like what these other organisms are doing, and to review a human being in that way of saying you are connected. You are genuinely connected, even if you don't see those people, even if they're far away. And how is this functioning that way? And whales were the animal that, in my mind, does that most clearly in nature, to be connected over thousands of miles. And truckers are very much, they do that. They really are connected. They really have friends. They have close friends they will never lay eyes on in their entire life, but they speak to 5 nights a week.
Is that not amazing though, Jeff?
Yeah.
I mean, they're like doing the internet without the internet.
Yep. Doing the internet way before the internet. It was.
Right?
And so it's for me, it was really strange as we've gone into quarantine. The film has taken on, even for myself, this whole other meaning, because now we're all truckers. We're all sitting at home, pressing this little button and saying hi to someone, and hoping right now, I'm hoping I'm connecting to somebody in Albuquerque watching this. And, you know, it's, yeah. So it's a very strange thing. So I tried to make it my version of a ghost story, which I hoped contained some hope.
Yeah. My goodness. Okay. So thank you so much, Jeff. That was such beautiful insight to your film. And Daniel and Stephen, oh my goodness, the way the three of you came together for us all on this idea of being, this idea of pressure and not wanting to be identified in that way, and identification and disappearance, existence and non-existence, and being in this place of wanting to connect with each other from this distance that we're all in. Oh my gosh, what powerful messages you all have for us today. And I thank you so much for joining us here at the Albuquerque Film and Music Festival experience. I mean, in music, you're telling your story. I mean, we're all storytellers, right? You're telling your story in our music and animation, you know, and Jeff, you're an actor too, and professor, you know. You're a tech person, Stephen, you know, with all that you do in making it work. And Daniel, you tell us the songs, you know, you share the songs, the soul, the message that doesn't just touch here, it touches here, it touches here, you know. Wow, what a time and what a thing to share with us. And we're so grateful and blessed that you agreed to join us. Thank you all for joining us in this part of the Albuquerque Film and Music Experience, our virtual experience, which has been fascinating thus far. And we look forward to seeing more of you, and join us soon. Thank you again, and God bless. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And Albuquerque, if you just watched it, maybe a couple of you noticed, buried deep in that mix during the car montage, Noelle Wells, who's a friend of mine and an actor who you may have seen on like Master of None and stuff, but she has a shout out to looking for the best cinnamon roll in Albuquerque in the middle of the film, if anyone caught that. So somewhere deep down, you guys can try to answer her question.
Oh, thank you.
Big.
Okay. All right. I think that's it.